You might remember that I mentioned that I had fixed the issues with traffic by the airports. As you can see, that might have been a little bit premature of me, because even with some changes to the roundabout and an upgrade to a 4-lane highway road, traffic here is not ideal, but honestly, I'm not crazy concerned about it right now, because as much as I love this area and I love how it's turning out, I don't want to spend another episode on this airport infrastructure. It's been 2 in a row. I think it's time that we move away from it just a little bit, and I do mean just a little bit. But first, there is one thing that I want to just very quickly address. There were a bunch of comments talking about the fact that I needed some kind of service road to the airport. So I decided to go in here, take out one of these small warehouses and build a service road that now has a high capacity fire station on it. Now there's pretty much no reason for a high capacity fire station out here. It has 40 fire engines and I've got it set to the larger fire engine because it looks the most, I don't know, appropriate for the space. Honestly, a regular fire truck would do just fine out here. They all serve the same purpose. I just figured this thing looked interesting. It looked sort of, I don't know, it looks cool. It adds some color variation to the area and I just like how it looks. I also like how the fence can connect to this pillar right here. It just fits nicely. So we have a service road, we have some fire coverage out here, and honestly, that's going to be good. And that's good because I want to take a look at services across the entirety of Vanillaville and see what we need. Now, looking around for the most part, things are weirdly okay. It seems like there's a little bit of garbage trouble in here, which is going to be because of the traffic on this old road here. We've got an abandoned building down this way, which is abandoned because no one collected the dead people. So we can bulldoze you, and that will likely rebuild relatively quickly. And everywhere else, for the most part, is okay. Again, we're seeing some garbage problems out here, but that's partly because it's relatively isolated from all the other garbage trucks and because we didn't have that service road. So what I'm thinking I want to do is I want to come down here and build, I don't want to say a village because we've done that in City Skylines too. We've come way out to the countryside and built a village, but I want to build something that's, I mean, it's probably going to be a village, basically. It's going to have some garbage processing stuff out here. It's going to have some general service stuff out here. It's going to have a couple of ways to get over to both the airport and the rest of the city. And I also want to have a train line come out here. So when I say that I don't want to build a village, what I mean is I'm going to build a village, basically. And so when it comes to the layout of that village, I'm mostly going to improvise and see what I can come up with. Now, I do have something in mind that I want to use for the middle of this thing, and it's going to be one of the unique buildings. I don't remember where it is. It's this guy. It's the tax office because I think it looks great. It's a beautiful looking little building and it serves a really good job as sort of a town hall looking thing. So that's kind of what I want this to be. And what I'm going to do now is just go, let's say 20 units that way. We'll go 20 units this way as well. And apparently, so collisions are on and anarchy's on. So that's why the trees, wait, no, anarchy is supposed to be propping tree out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's propping tree anarchy's off now. We've got like 3 different ways of running anarchy right now with all these mods. It's fine. Basically, this is going to serve as like a little village center. That's the idea there. I want to have some kind of avenue going up here. This is going to be sort of like a high street looking thing. I say high street. It's not going to be super high density buildings, but I just want to do something like this. This is the middle of our little town, and I'm going to grab all the nodes, the building, and I'm just going to level this thing out because this is the only part that I really want to control in terms of height and all that stuff, because I do want it to look a very particular way. So this is kind of what we're dealing with. We'll go in here with a nice big smoothing brush to make it look a little bit better. So we'll smooth all of this out as best we can. It's not going to be perfect, but that's honestly okay. And you know what? Maybe we'll just use a flattening brush to make my life a little bit easier. So we'll sort of flatten things out just a bit like this. And that'll give me a decent little canvas to work with. Again, this is the only part that I want to be super, super flat because this is going to be, well, actually, you know what this could be? This could be a pedestrianized space. So if we go in here, we'll go for, I don't know if I want to use sandstone. I think I'm going to use cobblestone. And I do want to have the trees going right up the middle like this. down that way. And then we don't really need to worry about this being like a one-way system or anything like that. So we're just going to use, do I want the cobbles in the middle, or do I want them, or the trees in the middle, or on the side? What's going to look better if we were to compare and contrast? Honestly, I'm even tempted to say no trees around this middle part at all. Maybe we just do the grass. Does that look better? Not really. I think nothing at all is going to look a little bit better. Yeah, I prefer that. I can detail that myself, which I think is going to look better in the long run. So that's going to be our little pedestrian center. We can go, I don't know, 10 units here. We'll go 10 units here. We'll do 10 on this side. We'll do 10 on this side. And this is going to be a pedestrianized center to a village that's going to be surrounded with roads that people can actually drive on. That seems fine. We can do some service stuff out here. We can do some residential stuff out here. We can do commercial in the middle. We can do some offices out this way. It's basically going to be, yeah, it's going to be more of a town, I think, and less of a village. It's going to be a little larger, but I don't know. I've just decided I'm doing this today. I'm not going to lie. Haven't really planned it. I'm kind of winging it, but it's nice. I just wanted to play some Cities Skylines today, so that's what I'm doing. All right, so now that we have this little one-way system going around the outskirts of our pedestrian space, we'll go in, we'll set up some kind of pedestrian zone, and I'll figure out where exactly the service point is going to go a little bit later on. I'm not really too concerned about that right now. I do want to get some basic infrastructure in here, though. I want to get a connection to the rest of Vanillaville. So we'll get the zone, or the district on there. And then my thinking for this is I want there to be 2 connections to this village, at least for now. There's probably going to be more in the future, and there is going to be a train line, like I mentioned. But what I'm thinking I want to do is I want to build a bridge that goes from about here and comes across this way to about either here or here. And I want a road that goes down this hill, sort of, you know, just goes down the hills. What's the word I'm looking for? Snakes? There's an S word I'm looking for. Like the slopes around isn't the word. I don't know. It snakes down this little hill. There's a word there. I just can't come up with it. It snakes down this hill. It curves around. It connects over to Fishmore Key. We can extend this as well, a little bit as well, I think. And that'll be good as well, I think. I'm a wordsmith today. Let me tell you, I'm having a great time figuring out all the right words. It's not like I've been doing this for 11 years. Let's figure out which part of this hill I want to connect to. I like the idea of this little part because it keeps these 2 roads together, but I might regret that in the long run if this place ends up being popular. So I think for the sake of future-proofing this, I'll keep some junctions further apart. We'll go across here. Now I could go into my options. I could unlock all 81 tiles, but I like the idea of a bridge out here. Even though it's going to have stupidly tall pillars, I think it's going to look cool. So that's sort of what I'm doing. I'm going for the cool factor of a giant bridge versus just, you know, going around and making a bit of sense, which is fine. Sometimes the cool factor is all that matters, and that's what we're going for. So we'll go in here. We'll have ourselves a little bit of a look at content creator packs, because we do have some cool looking bridges in here, and we do have the American 2-lane truss bridge, which honestly, I'm tempted to go for. We have the American 4-lane. I think we'll go with the 2-lane to start with. We'll put this elevated. We can, I mean, it's a bridge. We can set it to normal mode, honestly. And we'll go for, we'll say 3 meters to start with. We can go straight across, and we're going to go to here. So let's make this thing, what is that, 91. We'll go for about here, and that should be fine. So 92 units. It looks interesting. It definitely looks interesting, but that's all right. We'll switch back to a regular old road right about here, and we'll go for elevated, just like so. And I think what we'll do is we'll just stick with maybe just 10, maybe 12 units for the slope up to it. And we'll do exactly the same on the other side. We'll go for 12. We'll hit the home key to knock it down to ground level. And honestly, I'm all right with that. I don't mind at all. We'll go ahead and set this to ground level as well. We'll do the same thing on this side. This will probably get changed into some highway roads. This, I don't think, has highway speeds, but that's where Traffic Manager comes into play. And I wonder, would it look better if I upgraded this to ground level as well? I don't hate that, actually. I don't hate that at all. And I think if we went in and used a little bit of node controller, if I select there and I select there, I think that just ever so slightly smooths out some of that incline. So I don't mind that at all. And even then we can use move it to grab some nodes here and just say slope object, so it's even smoother. We'll do the same thing on this side. We'll say slope object and make it even smoother. And I like that. It's really neat. It's relatively compact. And if we look at Traffic Manager, we go to speeds. It is 25 kilometers per hour. We'll switch to miles per hour. Oh, there we go. So 40 miles per hour. Honestly, that's fine. We can make that work. We'll speed it up if we need to, but that's going to be one way. So we're probably going to put a roundabout on this corner. It's going to let people go to the airport. It's going to let them go to Butler Boulevard. And I guess that's also going to be a way that traffic from the airport could go down to Fishmore Quay without going past Dean Square. All of which needs renamed, and I still haven't done that. I'm really, really bad at staying on top of names, apparently, but it'll be fine. As for this side, I'm kind of, I'm not sure how I'm going to do a roundabout here. I don't know if that's going to be a good thing to do, but I guess we should just get it over with, huh? And wouldn't you know that with the roundabout built, traffic is doing what it does best and making absolutely no sense. Apparently, it is quicker for it to go out this way than it is for it to go just around the roundabout, which is fine. That's not going to be the case for much longer because I just need to connect these roads together. And I think I'm going to try and follow the terrain a little bit here. I'm not going to be too much of a stickler on it, but I'm going to sort of come around like this. In fact, I might just use the curve tool for this because it might make a little bit more sense. We'll go 12 units that way. We'll go, well, I wonder if it would make more sense to go sort of in a straight line here for a little bit. We'll go 7, we'll go 5, and we'll go 5 like this. So it's not going to be a perfect 90-degree bend, but it sort of follows that cliff around a little bit. And then we'll go in a bit of a straight line here as well. We'll go 10. And do I want to sort of go down this way, curve up and over? I think I might as well. I could just use the network multi-tool to do this. I might actually do that. It might be a little bit easier. So if we were to do a create connection mode, create curve mode, I can't remember which one it is. We'll use this to start with. That's the one I wanted. So basically make this a little more like that. I think that might be a relatively good idea. Yeah, I don't mind that. And then we'll do sort of the same thing here. We'll bring this over a little bit. And I don't know that I love that, but I think that's kind of what we're going to go for. It's messing with the terrain a little bit, but it's not the end of the world because I can go and sort of smooth that out and make it look a little bit better. So we'll hit that with a smoothing brush, just like so. And honestly, I'm kind of here for it. Now, obviously, a lot of this traffic is now going to be heading out here because of course it is. But soon enough, and we're already seeing it, these guys get into the proper lane to go around the roundabout properly, which is what we want. So we'll see if this works out. We'll see if this ends up being a good addition or a bad addition once we start building this space out a little bit more here. But as for the road that goes down to Fishmore Quay, I'm going to be honest with you. This is not one of my better roads. It's smooth in its curves, and I'm sure it would be fun to drive. I don't drive myself. It might actually be a nightmare to drive. I don't know. I feel like you'd be driving along here, sort of seeing that slope and being filled with anxiety. But regardless, it works, and I changed the plan slightly by connecting it to this corner here. I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, given that this is a one-way system, but that's what I've done, and that's what we're going to go with. Whether or not that works out in the long run, I have no idea. It doesn't really matter. It'll be okay. I think what we'll do at the very least is just set this up all proper like. I don't think this needs to be set up with some very strict road. What's the word I'm looking for? Arrows? Why am I struggling with words today? Regardless, left-hand turn, right-hand turn, that'll be fine. Down here, we are going to have some slightly stricter road arrows and road markings. We'll do the same thing here. So we have dedicated turning lanes right about there. And the roundabout is surprisingly doing okay, which is fantastic news. So now what I think I'm going to do is just start to lay out some of the other roads that I want in here. Now, I don't want this entire space to be pedestrianized, but we are going to have just a few little spaces that are going to be kind of tucked away a little bit. So we'll do something like this, and we'll go up to about here. And I don't think I want people parking back there. So we'll have those wider sidewalks that I'm already using. So we'll fill in that space a little bit. We'll do sort of the same thing here and kind of bring this right over and maybe bring this guy up a little bit too. I don't know if I want to do this, but I think it's what we're gonna go for. Get some slightly smaller buildings in there. And I'm not really too sure what's going to go in a lot of this space, but we'll figure that out. This is still going to be our town center. So some of this is still going to be relatively dense for the most part, but that'll be all right. I think this could probably turn into a relatively major road right about here. So we'll go for, I guess we'll go for the wider avenue. We'll continue the trees sort of through here. And we'll go about 40 units, which should be fine. Because again, I do want some suburbs out here. I do want some offices out. Well, you can't do low density offices in city skylines now that I think about it. So I'm not really 100% sure if we are going to do offices out here or what we're going to do. Maybe this bit could be our suburb. This bit could be our industry or our, garbage disposal, which is sort of what this area is for. So we could build ourselves an incineration plant. We could build a waste transfer facility. We could build the waste processing complex out here. That's probably not a terrible idea. So let's get that in here and then we'll figure out the suburbs. So we'll extend this guy another, say 10 units to there. And we'll go for just a regular road that comes out this way. We'll go sort of 10 that way. We'll go 10 that way. And we'll do this thing right in the middle. And that's basically, hopefully, going to help us out a little bit. So if we read into this, I need to remind myself, the waste processing complex sends out waste transfer trucks to pick up garbage from waste transfer facilities and landfill sites for further processing into energy and recycled materials. It cannot directly collect garbage. This guy, the waste transfer facility, uses garbage trucks to collect and temporarily store the garbage. So we're going to want some of these facilities as well. So I think what I'm going to end up doing here is we'll build ourselves a road that nicely hugs this building. So we'll go the entire way around it just like this. And we'll do one of these transfer facilities sort of next to it. Now, obviously, that's relatively pointless because, I mean, this thing collects from that thing. But that at the very least will send out some garbage trucks to start the ball rolling with collecting garbage absolutely everywhere else. And then what we can maybe do is go ahead and place one of these transfer facilities over here, for example. I mean, this is going to add more, it's going to be more vehicles to this already very busy road, but that should be all right. I think what we can even do is maybe come over this way and find a little space for one of these guys. So if I turn off anarchy, I can build one in there. I can't build one in there. Can I get one in this space? I absolutely can, which I kind of like. So let's go for right about there for one of these things. And that can send out some trucks to pick up garbage. And we don't have a lot of space over in this larger industrial area, but that's okay. I think what we'll do is maybe go for, I was going to say we go for this corner, but what I think we'll actually do is build ourselves just a little road here. And I want to see, does it fit? It does. That's absolutely perfect. So we'll build one right there and we'll bring ourselves just a little bit more path around this, just to kind of connect it all together, a little something like that. It doesn't look perfect, but honestly, here's what we'll do. Here's how I'll make it look a little bit better. We'll just put ourselves a tree right about there, and there we go. So we have the skeleton of this district in here now. This is essentially what we're going to be building off of for everything else. These roads out here, up here and down here, are all going to be for suburbs. We're going to be building more roads off of those, but for now, this is what it's going to be looking like. I've also painted in an actual district. It's Concord District, and it's set to modern city center. I want wall-to-wall buildings in here, and if I could get older looking buildings, I would. I could use European to do it, and I might actually use the European theme to test this, but I might switch it over to modern city center. Regardless, we're going to do a whole lot of European commercial in here, and I guess we could also do some offices in here as well, just to get some of that zoning in here. That might not be a terrible idea. So we'll do something like this. We'll do, I guess, similar here. We'll do offices. This is also going to have a bunch of offices, and I'm doing this kind of on purpose because I want to try and hide these service points right here. Now, I'm not 100% sure why this road doesn't have zoning on it. So let's very quickly go in and just rebuild this guy. And that gives us better zoning, which is perfect. So that's sort of going to be our layout for all of that stuff. And then I really, honestly, I'm not looking for this to be quite as dense as it's looking like it's going to be. So we'll take that out for now. And I guess we'll just let this build. We don't have that much demand for all of this stuff, but I'm going to let it build and we're going to see how it turns out. Hopefully it builds relatively quickly. And while that's going, I'm going to just go ahead and start putting in the pipes for this entire space. So we'll surround this, the center part with a nice ring like that. We'll run one straight through the middle as well, since that'll cover absolutely everything in there. And then we'll run some pipes down to the ends of these dead end roads as well. And that should more or less cover everything. And then in terms of connecting it to our existing network of pipes, honestly, I'm just going to run something to this corner right here. And we'll kind of follow this around a little bit and just use that as our connection to the rest of the city. So while this all comes together, I have to say it actually does sort of look the way I want it to. So we're not going to switch this out to Modern City Center just because I don't think we need to. With that said, this building it's not necessarily super modern. It's kind of, I don't want to start speculating about what exactly might have inspired this, but it's not crazy modern. It looks like it might have been built in like the 80s or 90s. So I might go so far as to say that this little space has maybe been redeveloped at some point. So why don't we go in and take out this little chunk of that district and we can replace it with a new district, and it is just a regular district. And then for Pleasant Heights, which might be renamed, we'll switch that to, did I just say mid-century modern? No, Modern City Center is what I'm looking for. We'll bulldoze all of these guys, and that's going to give us a little section of this town or village that's maybe been redeveloped ever since the train station got in here. And I think that might just look sort of interesting. That might be kind of cool to do. These guys over here might end up getting bulldozed and rebuilt as well. I'm not too sure what way that's going to go, but at the very least, we can say that this sort of central space, this little town hall, is going to be surrounded by some older European style buildings. I've also built a little park space in here just to try and bring people to the district a little bit. And we've got some paths going around it as well. And I'm just excited to see this all come together. I will say I'm a little bit nervous about building the suburbs though. Not 100% sure how that's going to go just yet. So I changed my mind just a little bit with this train station. I figure going for the small one is going to be a little bit better. And I also decided to use the parallel tool as a part of the network multi-tool to go ahead and get this train line in here that follows this main road. It's also been connected to everything now, and I've unlocked all 81 tiles because I needed to connect it up this way. The reason I waited until now to unlock those tiles though is because I didn't want to go too crazy with the suburbs. We're going to be doing suburbs sort of into this space behind the train station. I don't know how much sense that necessarily makes, but that's what we're going to be doing. And I've extended this road just a little bit as well. But what I really want to do is I want to go in here and I want to get this connected to the main central train station in the city. And I can use this platform to do it, which might not make a lot of sense, to be completely honest. I could use this one as well, which would probably make a bit more sense. But I think, honestly, you know what? We will use this one just because it can use the other actual platform. Regardless, ooh, now that I think about it, do I want to go from, I'm going to do 2 lines that go out here, I think. This might be a little, this might now be a reason to use a larger station, but what we're going to do is have one that goes to the city and we'll have the other one go to the airport. So we'll have 2 train lines sort of going back and forth here, and we'll get that completed. Now, if we go and have a look, that gives us train lines number 3 and 4. So 3 is the one that goes to the city. And I think what we'll do there is use the express train. It has a much lower capacity than the commuter train, but it might look kind of interesting, and I want to see what it looks like. And then this one, we could use the airport express train, I suppose. And we're going to make them a nice sort of blue color. I don't know if that necessarily matches, but it's going to be close enough right about there. And this one needs to be ever so slightly darker right about there, I think is pretty solid. So we'll go ahead and get those going. Hopefully we see them here. We absolutely do. That's going to be train line 3. So that's the one going to the city. And I don't know that I love that train as much as I thought I would. That's the airport one, which I do kind of enjoy. It actually looks to be 2 trains in one, which is totally fine. There's going to be a few of those by the looks of it. Let's see. How many vehicles? 3? We could probably go down to 2 on that. And then this guy is the one that goes to the city. We can probably go down to like 4 trains in total on that guy as well. Oh no, this is kind of cool. We've got 65 people coming from the airport, which is fantastic news. We've got what looks to be a few people boarding, 23, maybe going back to the airport. So people are coming and going from here. We have a lot of people that are just walking straight into the pedestrian zone as well, which is lovely. This thing has indeed got 23 on board. So I guess we'll see just how many people want to use this thing from the city. But good Lord, a lot of people got off of that intercity train. It looks like a lot of those people want to get on to another train though, which is, oh no, actually quite a few of them are going into the little village as well. Either way, that's kind of cool. I like that. I like to see that a lot of those people are wanting to head on through to the rest of the city. So this is kind of being used as a drop off for the region now, which is totally fine. We might see some people getting on trains here to go into the city itself. Either way, I like that a lot. But what I want to do is more of this. I want to go ahead and start building in little suburban roads and things like that. I don't want to go too crazy with it though. I think I am going to try and space things out a little bit. So the biggest thing holding back development of the rest of this town or village is demand, basically. It's not really where I would want it to be. It's not increasing as quickly as I'd want it to. But we are seeing some buildings come in here. We're seeing some people come in here. I have got some bus lines in here now as well that will connect from here to the city and also that loop around here. So hopefully public transport is going to help us out a little bit. We do still have a lot of people. We just emptied this train of 240 people that are likely all going to be going into the village, and 240 are heading back to the airport. So this place is popular, which is great. I've also added some traffic lights to this intersection to sort of control the flow of people a little bit. And looking at it, we might want to do the same thing down here as well. So we'll use Traffic Manager to get some traffic lights right there. We don't really need them absolutely everywhere, but I do want to put them pretty much everywhere that an actual road intersects with the pedestrian roads, because essentially I don't want people just crossing the street whenever they feel like it. I want traffic to stop and I want people to flow a little bit more reasonably. So we'll see here, for example, they're all going. If a car comes along, which we have a hearse coming along right now, it is going to stop and then let people cross. They stop, the hearse goes, the traffic lights change, and everything keeps on flowing. So that's what we're looking for. We want a little bit of traffic control in there just to make sure that people aren't getting run over. I've also built a little medical clinic down here because we did have some need for ambulances out here. But what I'm thinking I might do is bulldoze this guy and bulldoze a few of these buildings and actually go ahead and build a little road in here. Now I'm noticing that the back part of this service point has nothing on it. So I'm going to have the road overlap with that because I can. And then what I can do is actually build a little medical clinic just in here. And I think that's going to look better. If anything, I'm almost tempted to go for something a bit larger. I do like the look of this general hospital. It's just, it's a little big. It might be, well, actually, I don't hate that. I genuinely don't. I don't mind that at all. Let's just shuffle it around a little bit like this. And that gives us sort of the back of the building right there. I don't know if I want the back of the building there, but at the same time, I could do some trees along here to sort of decorate that space. So maybe that is what we go for. We give the hospital its own sort of dedicated little road right there and it'll be fine. So let me select a few nodes around here and let me select the hospital itself and just level it to this height. So we have this nice sort of flattened space here. We can maybe do a little bit of a slope on these guys just to make that flow up a little bit better. And I can maybe go in here and do some kind of little path between this, the hospital and the other buildings. I've actually been using the amusement park path a little bit. I know it has the dirt underneath it, but if I just grab it and sort of shuffle it right up against here, you can't really tell that there's dirt underneath it. You will be able to at this end, but honestly, It's not the end of the world. It just adds a bit of variety. It's just a bit of color, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. So I'm not really too worried about that. And then in terms of the hospital itself, I mean, we probably should put some kind of fence around it. And I kind of like the idea of using the farm, is it the farm fence? The forestry fence, simply because it's made of wood, and it's just a little bit of color in there, which is kind of what we're going for. So we'll grab it. We're going to move it to be pretty much on top of the existing fence right there. So it's kind of like this wooden fence embedded in the concrete. We can hopefully, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add a little node right there so I can do this more smoothly. We'll bring this right up to that path, something like that. We can leave this bit open. Maybe people could walk through onto the path. Obviously, they're not going to do that, but we can imagine that's what they would do. And I'm going to bring this fence right down to here just to try and have that little bit of wood in there so it looks like it's a little bit more pleasant than it otherwise would be. Just a little bit different color there. Makes it look a little bit nicer. I just like that. It nicely sort of borders it and gives me room to play with some trees. And the line tool is still acting up, so I'm just going to do this manually. In fact, what I can do is something a little bit messy. We'll go like this. And then if I go in and I select all of these trees, I'm pretty sure I can say line up objects, and there we go. So it just lines them up really nicely, and that gives us a hospital for the village. So I can go in here and say that I want some buildings, and that should be fine. I'm also going to say that I want to... Do I want to do trees on this road here? Is that a thing we want to do? I just got rid of that path after placing it. That's kind of frustrating. I'll tell you what, we will do trees there, and we will do those trees, and we'll just do a regular path back here so it just blends really, really easily like that. And that looks all right. Although I don't love the dirt gap there. So I'll tell you what, let me go in here. Let me grab that node. Let me grab that one, shuffle it down a little bit, bring it over a little bit. And I think I'll allow that. The gap between these buildings and the hospital is fine. I'm not super worried about that. And then when it comes to policing, I want to sort of do a similar thing. We have this police station that's sort of European-ish, and I kind of just want to put it there and build around. That's not good. I want to build around it a little bit with some decoration just to make it sort of look the part. So I think what we need to do is grab this node, and probably not that one, but I want to level these two nodes if I can to the height of the police station. So it's on a nice little flat bit of land. And then around this thing, well, I can't really do too much because it's only open at this end. So what I might need to do is grab this guy and rotate it around. I couldn't place it on this road initially because I've got the zoning turned off on that road, but we can put it on this road just fine. And then maybe I can play around a little bit with some paths to raise the terrain and give this thing sort of just a bit more of a footprint. So we'll do this. We'll do this. And what we'll do is this as well. I'm going to grab the nodes for those paths. And I think these guys actually work with the terrain kind of nicely. So bring that up to that height. That's perfect. Might have to do some key work in there, but not really too worried about that. I want this to be sort of parallel to this path down here, which it is. And that's not good. I am going to have to do a little bit of work with the, well, I might have to just lower this down. Maybe that's what we go for. Just lower that down a little bit. That's not awful looking. This is, obviously, we don't want that to be in there, but this does give us just a little something to play with. We'll bring this over as well. And I can probably make this into something, right? If I go into my public transport menu, we go to airport areas and we search through, we can get those aprons and we can maybe use those to make this look a certain way. So if I do this, it gives us a nice bit of concrete. And I can hopefully do similar here. Can I put it on this? I can, but I'm not going to. Can I do this? Okay. That's something, right? That's I don't know how I feel about this. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not 100% sure about this decision anymore, but we're gonna stick with it and we're gonna see what we can do here. So we'll level this to that height for now. Yes, this is very steep, but we're gonna play around with it. And we're going to see what we can do here, because I think we can do something cool here. Okay, so it turns out that there's not actually a lot I can do with this space, even if I do extend it like this. I could put a parking lot in there, I guess, but I decided to go with one of these police boxes because I figure it looks cool. Although honestly, I kind of like it there as well. What if we were to move this thing a little bit so that it kind of lines up with that fence? So it almost looks like kind of a border between a parking area. I mean, it just kind of looks like a booth, doesn't it? It doesn't look like it's going to have police cars. And then maybe I go in here and do some parking like that. I don't know if I love that, but I'm thinking maybe this thing could sort of shuffle over a little bit and sit right about there. So we have some extra parking. We have the police booth thing, and I suppose that looks okay. I mean, it's not great back here, but this looks fine, and it provides policing to this entire space. Still very little development out this way, but at least we have something coming up, which is fine. And honestly, for the rest of this space, I think I'm going to do similar. I think we're just going to go and start to fill up a whole bunch of this with some zoning so that it starts to get building and starts to fill in a little bit. The main thing I think I'm going to do, and I realize I probably want to have collisions on as I'm doing this. The main thing I think I'm going to do is try to surround this with just a bunch of trees. I think that's what's going to that's what's going to tie a lot of this together, is landscaping and trees and all that good stuff. It's basically what I do every time I build something like this, is I surround it with trees. I'm not 100% sure what this space is going to be just yet, but I do think we probably want to do, given we have the demand for it, maybe a little bit more commercial. So maybe we could come into this space over here and say that this and this can be a bunch of commercial zoning. We can maybe do some kind of little path through some of this as well. So say right about here and right about here could be little path sections, maybe right about here as well, and right about there to nicely tie it all together. So that can be commercial zoning. We do need to extend the main district if we're doing that. So it's going to need to come up this way and into that space as well. So that'll give us a few more of those European commercial buildings, which I'm completely fine with. This guy's a little bit taller than I was expecting for a low density commercial building, but honestly, I'm sort of here for it, and that's totally fine. And there we go. We have this space filling in as we speak, which is fantastic news. As for all of this and all of this, it's going to take a while for it all to fill in, but honestly, it's not really the end of the world. It'll get there eventually. We do have some smaller residential buildings along here as well, but I think what we can do, again, given that we have the demand for it, is maybe come through here and start to fill in some of this space with some offices. Maybe this chunk could be commercial just to get some of that demand gone, and that little bit can be commercial as well. The reason I want to do this is because that's going to bridge the gap for power going out to this entire suburb. And as for getting power out to there, I completely forgot that I have a, wait, I've got power going underneath the roads. When did that happen? When is that? Okay. Well, that's a thing. That's good. That's great. That's actually makes my life so much easier. If only I could have the same thing for pipes. All right, so this whole thing is starting to come together in a way that I'm really, really happy with. I got rid of the small service point next to the general hospital and replaced it with this larger service point, which has a higher cargo capacity and should stop the pedestrian area from complaining, essentially. I've also put some trees alongside it, similar to what we did on the other side of the hospital, so it ties this area together. And yes, these are modern looking buildings, but because they're tied together, it looks like a little modern development. And then speaking of modern developments, I have built the makings of a Central Park style thing right here at the end of the main road through the little village slash town. I've also surrounded it in more commercial buildings. You can see sort of on the side there that it doesn't go anywhere right now, but those are modern city center buildings because I figured this is a more modern city center. This wasn't built back when this village was established. I don't know. I like to think there's lore. All right. I like to think there's lore. And you might have already spotted, but there is now some industry out here as well, because I figure it just makes sense to have some industrial jobs out in this village. There is also a little fish factory in there as well, or rather a seafood factory that if it gets plastics and fish will create luxury goods. There's also a warehouse right here, which is going to be storing plastics. So hopefully that's something we can manage to maintain so that we start exporting some of those luxury goods. But other than that, I'm actually kind of okay with how this whole thing's coming together. I love the fact that there are so many people that are walking through the middle of this space. I will say, I don't love the fact that so many of these people are using the airport line to get to and from this place. There's no one using train line 3 to go to the city. And I think the reason for that is because it's a lot easier to get a train to the airport, and then you hop off of that train here, you cross over and you get a helicopter to the city. I mean, if we look at this thing, it's a little ridiculous right now. There's 952 people waiting right here. There's 300, almost 400 people waiting back here. Good Lord. We might want to get rid of these helicopter lines. I'm not going to lie. They are insanely popular, but they are just, I don't love that you don't see the people. I don't love that it's just helicopters flying over the city. So I think I might do that. I think I'm going to get rid of the helicopters because it is sort of bothering me. It would be nice if I could just tell them to stop running. That would be cool if I didn't have to delete them, but I'm going to delete the helicopter lines, and we're going to see where that pushes people to. Because if we have a look in here now, all of those people have to go somewhere, and I don't necessarily know where they're going to go. More interestingly, all of these people now have to go somewhere, and I don't know where they are going to go. It looks like some of them are going to get their cars. It looks like a decent chunk of them are maybe going to go to the buses, but I want to know where these guys are all going. Because that is, I mean, essentially it's 900 people that we've just told to get lost. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see where those 900 people go. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. I was not expecting those guys to just say, I'm out, I'm going to the airport. I don't really know where they're going now. And then by the looks of it, a lot of the rest of them considered going to get another helicopter, but they can't do that now. So I think they're going to use the cable cars, which is honestly okay. Then we can see a bunch of them in the distance there going for the buses as well. So that's fine. Oh, now that is interesting. It looks like all those people went through the airport so that they could go to the airport metro station. So that's exactly what's gone on there, which again makes sense. The metro is going to be much, much faster at getting to the city than the train lines over here. But at the very least, it's going to be interesting to see what that does for this guy. How many people are now going to get onto the Airport Express train? I mean, there's 240 right now, but is that going to continue to be a thing? I don't really know, but I'm excited to find out. I'm also thinking it's been bothering me since the start of the episode. I want to go in here and I want to just change these to be a little bit more square like that. I don't know why it's been bothering me, but it has been bothering me, and that just looks better. I'm going to do the same thing down here as well, just sort of square this off a little bit so that that intersection just looks that bit better. This guy, I'm going to just extend to be 15 meters, all these points again, so it just looks a little better and a little bit smoother. And hopefully that's something I can get away with absolutely everywhere. It looks like it. And yeah, that just looks, it just looks better. It's just a bit of an improvement is what that is. I suppose we're just going to have to wait and see what happens next. Looking at it, a lot of people are still getting off. Oh, by the way, the little minibus line that goes around here suddenly has people that want to use it, which I wasn't expecting. But we still have all of these people cutting through here. A few of them still trying to find helicopters, but a lot of them, it looks like, are just going to the airport to get onto the metro, which I realize is probably part of the reason that the little minibus line is now popular, because people are like, man, I can't just walk across the street and get a helicopter. Now I have to like go all the way around the airport to get a metro. So we'll see what happens one way or another. This is a regional train that's just dropped a bunch of people off. And if we look at the lines overview here, I mean, yeah, nothing for train line 3. 397 for train line 4 is pretty good. But again, that's the one that goes from the village to here. That's the one that's causing, as we can see, a lot of the people to to want to use the helicopters. All right, so I think we've kind of reached the point where I can start to just add some trees to a lot of this space. And I think this is maybe, and I hope this is going to, at the very least, start to bring this all together and make it feel a little bit more like it's been here for longer than an hour. You know, I think we can probably say that Concord is done for now. I'm considering adding some farming industry around this just so it feels a little bit more like a village, but I don't want to take away from all of my trees either. So I'm not 100% sure that I will do that. I do think it would be an idea to add some dirt paths through some of the forests just so people have some places to walk around a little bit. But again, I think we can wait until another time to consider that. In other news, basically nobody is using this large central train station, which is disappointing, but not surprising given that the metro and the buses and everything else has been working amazingly around Vanillaville thus far. So there might still be hope for this thing, but honestly, I did just build it for the fact that it would look cool having all these trains running through the city, which we're going to get there one way or other. It's just a little disappointing that there's still no one that wants to use it. Again, disappointing, but not surprising, especially when you consider that almost 4,000 people used this metro plaza in the last week. Keep it in mind that a lot of those people are going to and from the airport because we got rid of the helicopters. So if this thing can maintain that sort of flow and not be an absolute nightmare, I'm sort of okay with not bringing the helicopters back because I like the idea that everyone's using the metro plaza. I like the idea that they're coming up to the surface and getting on a bus or getting in a taxi or just going to somewhere in the city. So this is good. This is still what we're looking for. I just figured that some of them might want to use the trains as well, but it's not all bad. People are using the trains, just they're using the ones by the airport, not the ones in the city. I'm also thinking we might want to very, very quickly, and perhaps at the detriment to the flow of my traffic, add some traffic lights to these intersections just so that people aren't getting run over by all of the vehicles that are coming out of here. Again, this might be a bad idea, and arguably seeing how much traffic is here already, it is a bad idea, but it just sort of makes sense. Anyway, I think we can probably go ahead and leave it there for today. I wasn't 100% sure that I was going to like Concord, but I do. I am quite pleased with this. It's the first time we've used European buildings in this entire city. It's dealt with some of the issues we had with garbage, and it has contributed to the overall population of the region. So with that in mind, thank you very much for watching, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.